Today I'm going to talk about the F part of the word self. So we've been exploring the words of myself and just breaking it apart and understanding that. And today is the final part of that, this, for 5-day journey. Okay, and F is for freedom. It's in NLP terms, we talk about, we have maps of the world, and I touched briefed on this a couple of days ago, where we have maps of the world and we perceive that this is how things should be, and we have maps that overlap with other people's maps, and the more that you have that overlaps, the more you have in common. Okay, and the more you have in common, the easier it is to be with that person. So sometimes you have maps that are just touching like that and some that really overlay, and sometimes it's just a little sort of like crossover like that. And it's what you're overlapping with that makes it easier to get on with that person. And it can be things that you do, it can be values, it can be same opinions, it could be similar activities, like you might be church goers, or you might be yoga people, or you might be bread makers, or you might be herbalists. I don't know. It's so it could be travel. It's like, what are your areas of commonality that you have? Now, where the freedom infringement comes in play is when you have people where that's just touching like this, and there's people, sometimes we've got such different opinions that there's dare I say, through the ages of humankind, unfortunately, there's been wars and wars and wars, because they have belief systems that we should have it, our way is better than your way. And the other ones are saying, well, our way is better than your way. Or sometimes they just don't, they're not aggressive or whatever, but the one side might be, and they try and take over and, impose their maps of the world on them, saying it's better. Now, dare I say it, I mean, British colonialism is an example, going all the way through Europe, and, we saw it a lot in Africa. There was conquering of all the lands. It wasn't just the British. I mean, we've had all the wars where it was, they were there to conquer, and it was like conquering the native lands, wasn't it? And that's what they did in the day. And they came through, like in Zimbabwe. I'm originally from Zimbabwe and South Africa, and they got missionaries to come and teach the natives how to be something other than what they were. And I have to say, it's really quite odd sometimes, even now when you go back, when you go into quite sort of remote areas where there's mud huts and kraals and, sticks, and, some places they don't really hunt anymore. It depends on how far inland you go. If you're hitting the Bantus, are nomadic, and they're in the desert. But here's an example. In that instance, it's like the Western world has infiltrated it. You will see Bantus with their spears and their loincloths with Coca-Cola, and there's a mismatch, isn't there? It's like some civilization, doesn't matter which one it was in power at the time, came along and went, this is our way, and you poor savages, we're going to teach you how it's done, and we're going to teach you the real way to connect with our God. In that instance, I think it was, it was all, well, I know it was Catholicism, and it was like, you got to dress suddenly in European clothes. And they're out in the desert, and it's stinking hot. And back then, especially, long clothes and whatnot, you would have been absolutely sweating like you wouldn't believe. So it's that whole lack of respect for freedoms. It's not allowing for the growth and learnings that we could have perhaps had of those cultures, of those people, of those individuals, and letting them flourish in their own way. It could maybe be done differently, in a more unified way, in a way where both sides are respected. How I would love it in my little utopia world would be that, and I say this, and I see it a lot in relationships, where people, the most successful relationships that I see, are where they're not imposing their maps of the world on each other. They have enough common ground, especially on the values front, but where they nurture and grow independently. They're not codependent, they're interdependent. They help and support and help and nourish and grow the other person to the best of their capabilities. They don't stand in their way. They encourage them. They inspire them. They motivate them. They keep them on track, and they go, come on. They're best cheerleader for that person, and friends as well. And it's like, wouldn't it be an ideal world if we had that, where you're free to be who you are to the very best of your capability, without somebody coming along and going, no, I want you to do it this way. I want you to do it that way. It has to be done this way. I demand that you to do it. You will, or, and then fill in the blank. Like you'll get traumatized in some way, or they got things, and you look at the war days, and it was like, people got beaten and thrown into camps if they didn't do things a certain way, and it's just like, where do we get off doing that? And that is that whole ego that I was talking about, that fractures the self. Because if you think about the universe, when you stand outside at night and you're looking up into the skies, there is more nothing than there is something, as I mentioned before. And what's connecting those stars together is the space. It's space, isn't it? And all of that is all connected by space. We are connected by space. When I hold my heart up like this, is I'm connected to you. My heart to your heart, okay, is connected through space. Okay, so that's how I see it, is that, fracturing it off with this ego is all a control thing, isn't it? It's all about power and money and self-serving in the wrong way. It's selfish behavior. It's to serve the material, and to what end? In the end, all of those dictators, all of those massive conquerors die. They can't take anything with them. What was the point of all that trauma and mass murder and destruction and harm? What was the point? To go, well, I got another country and I've died. Oh, well, I can't take it with me. Hello? Really? Wouldn't it be, I live for the world where there is more self in our world, where we get that we are ourselves. Like, our is a united term, isn't it? It's not, your. It's our world. We are living in our universe. A universe is a one verse. Okay? It's not that verse and my verse, your verse and my verse. It's universe. It's we are united. The word united is universed. So the freedoms that you have within that, if you think about the universe as it stands, how it works is it's all expansive. It wants to grow, it wants to create, it doesn't want to stifle, it doesn't like stifling. It wants nourishment and to flourish. And how can we have it where we are free to be independent? That's S as well of being connected with source. There's also a sense of self-sustainability and self-reliance in that for me, because when you're so self-assured, when you've got that self-esteem, which is the E bit, and self-esteem and self-sustainability, self-reliance, you become self-resilient, which gives you the capacity to go, no thank you, I don't want to have a fractured world. I don't want that ego in my world. I don't want that, you know, narcissism and materialism to the point where it hurts, where it harms, you know. The more of the unification, the better, and where we can flourish and grow within ourselves, but interconnected still. We're still one, but we're just flourishing in different ways. I mean, you might be a budding, I don't know, sculpturist. I'm not, but I can support you and go, wow, that's amazing, that's incredible, how did you do that? I'm not going to, no, I don't like it, and I want you to do it a different way, and in fact I don't want you to do it at all, and if you don't do it my way, I'm now going to throw you in prison, or I'm going to, you know, ostracize you, or whatever it is. You know, let them flourish. Go, you know what, that's unusual. Okay, that's unusual, I've never thought of it like that. Show me more. Maybe, you know, have you tried thinking about doing it this way or that way, and give them more ideas, and maybe they'll go in a different direction, which will help them become something bigger and better. And by nurturing ourselves and giving ourselves the freedom to flourish and grow the way that we're supposed to, feeding the part of ourselves that we came here to feed, because I spoke about this in one of my videos the other day about how quite often the weakness that you are perceived to have is in fact your very uniqueness that will make you well known, that you could most benefit from financially, because, you know, that whatever it might have made you the black sheep or people poo-poo you for, quite often if you look at most of the really successful people, they were put down for that. So it's like, how do we get the courage and find the tribe that will support us? So reconnecting, you know, again, it's reconnecting each day to the self, the source, and just creating space. And if you don't know how to do that, just ask, you know, do 5 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever it is, and go into it and just go, I call it still point. You find the quiet spot where there's no chatter. I like to do it really early in the morning. Quite often I'm up at 3 or 4 in the morning, and then quite often, you know, I do my session and then I go back to sleep, or if I don't, I get up and do some exercise or whatever. But in a quiet time before it gets real busy, and try and keep your mind focused, and just ask for one question that you've got before you go into it, and say, you know, I'm not sure what my next step is. What is it? And then just have that quiet time, connect to whatever you call it, source, God, universe, whatever it is for you. Just be quiet and still. Don't let the chatter in. If the chatter comes, don't beat yourself up about it. Just go, oh, I acknowledge you. I'll attend to you later. Thank you, but I'm thinking about this now. And I'm just making space. And just imagine in that cool calmness that the answer will come. And sometimes it will come straight away, and sometimes it won't. You might need to do it several times before it comes. But when you start practicing that and allowing for that to come in, it gives you the freedom. You're making space for the freedom for you to connect. And in that as well, there is a unity that comes with this. When you talk about when I talk about the reunification of coming home to oneself, there's a unity in that. It unifies all of us, not just yourself. So it heals those fragments within ourselves. It heals the fragments within our society. It heals more people. There's a lot of work to be done. But, you know, hopefully this kind of message will get out and people will start questioning more, and they'll go, do you know what, that's a point, and how can we have it where it's different? How could it be different? And this is one way that we could do that. And we all become the one self. We are one. We are universal, you know, universal citizens, whatever you want to call it. It's not driven by all the fractured egos, but driven by the self, the free, all-encompassing, for good self. And that's part of us. That's part of every single one of us, including you. So my challenge for you is to make space in your morning or your evening to allow for that freedom to come into your life. How could that be that play out in your life? What's the question that you could ask yourself to allow that to flourish, and where it allows for you to heal within? That's my challenge for you today. Hope you do it. Okay, and I'd love to know how you got on. If you wouldn't mind sharing, please do. If you're more comfortable DMing me in the Facebook Vicky Jane Facebook page group, sorry, it's free to join if you're not a member. Feel free to flick me a DM and let me know how this impacted you. And if you thought it was useful, please share, like, subscribe. All right, thank you so much. Namaste.